Thank you for listening to the Pull It Back podcast. Now here are your hosts, Mike and Andy.
Good morning, boys and girls. We are back with another episode of the Pull It Back podcast, and I am, of course, joined by Andy.
Yo.
And we're just soloing it this week. It's just me and him. So, I guess the first topic we were going to cover was the one that you said that there was some kind of virus or something on Android devices now.
Yeah, apparently there's this. It's called the Agent Smith malware, and it's replacing a bunch of app codes and replacing it with its own code. It's affected something like 25 million devices.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, well, what do you mean by, like, is it replacing code? Like, it's instead of doing what it's supposed to do, it's like doing something else, or? So
basically what it's doing is it's inserting itself into the apps. Like, it's changing out the code from the app and inserting itself into that replaced code or into that missing code. And it's just making, like, more ads. It hacks apps.
So is it like taking people's information?
Yeah, right.
Oh, shit.
And takes credit for the ads, and that's how people get, I guess, like the people's creator gets money for it or something like that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's how they profit. So it's kind of screwed up. Yeah, 25 million devices. That's a shitload of devices, man.
Hell yeah, it is. That's quite a bit, man.
Yeah, so that's kind of crazy for those Android users out there. You know, be leery of what apps you're downloading. You know, make sure it's legitimate apps and not just some bullshit third-party apps. So that's, you know, we always kind of talk shit about Apple, even though we're Apple users, but that kind of shit doesn't happen normally on Apple products.
Yeah, because
they're
they have
so stringent on their process for allowing apps into the App Store.
Yeah. Yeah, they have everything reviewed by, you know, there's like a crew, like a security crew of people that like run through all the apps and they, you know, check everything. And if there's like, I mean, Steve Jobs went on, I think it was All Things Digital.
Yeah.
It was like a, you know, where they meet with that old guy and old lady. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was sitting there talking and he was like, there's these people out there that, you know, make these apps and they it does something else that it's not supposed to, and then they go to the press and they say that we're oppressive and stuff, when in all, the dude writing the app is a son of a bitch liar.
Right.
That's what Steve Jobs said, man. That was funny as shit. I love that guy.
Liar.
I miss that guy, man. I wonder where Apple would be if he was still around.
It'd probably be a lot better, honestly, because because Jobs didn't, like, that dude was such a prick. Like, apparently, like, he was like, get this shit done. Like, when he threw that phone at that person, he was like, here, it doesn't fucking work, you try it, and throws it at him.
Oh, no. That was a camera.
Oh, is that what
that was? Yeah,
he
couldn't get the camera to turn on, and he was just like, here, you can take this. He's like, see if an expert can turn it on.
He just tosses it at him.
Yeah, he tosses it at him, and everybody's like, oh. It's like, well, I mean.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, you're in front of millions of people. Like, he's like, I'm pissed off at this guy because, you know, and he didn't want that to happen with his products, so he made sure that they were the absolute best that they could be. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. I mean, he wanted, if he was going to use them, he didn't want that shit to fuck up when he was using it.
Exactly.
So that's what he wanted for the consumer as well. Like, Apple's just sending out shit half-assed now, and I got to think that would not happen if Jobs was still around. That shit would be fully functional. It would be perfect. And that's pretty much what Apple products were known for back in the day. It was just like perfect, ran seamlessly. But now it's like form over function, you know. Everything looks great and feels great, but the functionality of it kind of blows. Like, the iPhone 10 is probably the worst iPhone I've ever had.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's because, I mean, another big part of it is that, like, Apple switched from, they were using Qualcomm chipsets, which is like the one that picks up the signal and renders it, you know, like Wi-Fi and cell signals.
Right.
And they switched to Intel, and Intel is very well known to be behind everybody else as far as like advancements in this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they partnered with Intel saying, hey, we want you guys to make our chips. So they put at least in the AT&T versions of the iPhone 10,
right?
They have the Intel chips, and the Verizon one still had Qualcomm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now with the new iPhone XS and XS Max, they all have Intel, and their speeds as far as cell signal is terrible. I've had my XS Max, and honestly, I think my iPhone 7 had better signal because it had a Qualcomm chipset, and they just recently went back to Qualcomm because Intel has been terrible.
Yeah, I mean, I know ever since I upgraded to the 10, like, there's a lot of places where I cannot get signal at all.
Yeah.
At all. And that shit just didn't happen when I had my iPhone 6. Like, my iPhone 6 I had that for many a year, and I got signal everywhere I went. Like, we'd go out to the farm, have signal there, just running around. And now when I go out there, I have to sit in one certain spot where the signal booster is in order to get even 1 bar of LTE.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I don't understand how, 3G even worked back in the day. Because, I'd have full bar of 3G, and it'll sit there and load and load and load. And it's like, is everything geared for 4G now? Like, where 3G is impossible to run it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jesus Christ, this shit was only what?
Yeah, it was fine.
5-6 years ago that 3G was, well, maybe a little bit longer, but
yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, 3G was perfect. It was perfectly fine. You could run shit, browse the internet, and now it's like, no, 3G's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the 2G, the one prior to it was like the Edge or whatever the hell they called it.
Yeah.
Well, they had that, and that one's completely shut down. They still have the 3G plus or whatever the hell it is, and they have 4G, which is LTE,
right?
And then now they have this 5GE, which is bullshit. It's just a slightly upgraded 4G.
Yeah.
And then now they have the real 5G that's coming out, but it's not available on iPhone, of course, not yet, and it probably won't be this coming year, and it might be next year, but still.
Yeah, they still got to make completely new phones that are 5G capable.
Yeah,
so
Samsung already has it because they use Qualcomm chips. Qualcomm has a 5G chipset already ready for mass market, and Intel doesn't, and they said they might not ever. That's why iPhone was like Intel.
Oh yeah.
They said they might not ever have a 5G chipset ready. So that's why Apple was like, yeah, we're just getting out of here.
Well, fuck. How does Intel not have a 5G? They knew this was coming. Why would they work on it?
I don't know. I think they just got out of it. Now they're saying Apple might jump in and do their own chips from now on. So.
Like proprietary chips. That'd
Yeah.
probably be for the best because, well, who knows what it would do for the consumer. Hopefully it would lower prices because I'd imagine if it's a proprietary thing and they're not outsourcing everything, they could probably lower the cost.
Yeah.
Right? That would be my thinking. But you know how Apple is. Like, well, we got these new chips that are Apple made. So guess what? $2,500 for a new phone.
Mm-hmm. And I think, that was the thing, like with Samsung. That was kind of rough. And because they had that flip phone or whatever that failed miserably.
The foldable one?
Yeah. They launched it in pre-orders, and like reviewers were saying, oh, my screen's broken, like almost immediately.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, let's go ahead and go back.
Yeah,
so they completely reneged all of the pre-orders and had to go and start doing more.
I saw a couple of those. I saw a couple of those reviewers. Like a guy, like he as soon as he unboxed it, it was broken because he took some like super important piece of plastic off and totally fucked the phone up.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Whoops." And then he wrote a whole little blurb about it, talking about like there was a bunch of other people that did this, testers that did the same thing. Pulled this plastic off that they were like, it looked like just a regular old, screen protector. Yeah, and he pulled it off, and they were like, "Whoops," Because then they notice later on it says, don't remove it. And you're like, oh, shit, whoops. And it just totally, completely fucked the phone up.
And then Samsung tried to come out like, well, you can't pull that off. It's not a screen protector. It's like, yeah, but it doesn't, I mean, it like hide that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the foldable phone was kind of a cool, concept.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done correctly.
No, it's just gimmicky. Nobody wants that shit. Because, I mean, when you fold it up, it's the same size as a fucking regular phone. And it's twice really the thickness. Yeah. It's twice the thickness.
Because, I mean, they've already had the dual screen phones. Like, it was like a long time ago. It was a foldable. I mean, it had 2 separate screens. But, I mean, they still had it. You know what I mean?
Like, I mean, if you want to carry a Nintendo DS around with you, then, I mean...
More power to you. But and they had that. Like I said, they already had that, like, in 2000, what? I don't know, 2011, 12, maybe?
Something like
that. They had phones like that. They were already, like, they were foldable. But nobody bought them. It's like, you don't have to do... Because everybody's looking for the next big thing. They're like, what if you had, like, a foldable phone? I'm like, yeah, but how about you just wait until it's done correctly? You know what I mean? Like, wait till the technology's there. Don't try to rush it to market and be the first one. I get it, but look what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It just comes out half-assed, and
that's why Apple waits for all this shit to come out. They study it. They're like, oh, yeah, this is what's wrong with that one. This one got recalled. They rush this one. And then they wait and wait and wait until stuff is almost perfect, and then they put it all together. And that's why their stuff works a lot better than most.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because I mean, say what you want about iPhone, but I mean, because I'll talk shit about iPhones all day, and I'll talk shit about Apple, because I'm like, man, they could be doing so much more, but I mean, it does work.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that it does what you need it to do, for sure. It's just some little inconveniences that you're like, God bless. I wonder if it's better out there, and then you see some stupid shit like this gimmicky Samsung and the other Huawei or whatever it was.
Yeah, the Chinese one where they banned it.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, man. Phones are getting up there with being really stupid. Like, I know they're trying to break into the future and have foldable phones and ones where you can just unroll it and it's a phone and shit like Tony Stark's phone.
Yeah.
It's like,
which would be freaking sweet. But I mean, it's we're just not there yet.
Yeah.
It's like the phone is a small computer screen that you have, right? Because right now, I mean, hardware-wise, I mean, the iPhone, the chipset that's in it, it's like almost as fast as my laptop. It's just insane how fast these little chips are in these phones. But it's like now it's all about the software. Hardware is excellent. I think everybody could agree with it. Like the iPhone, hardware-wise, is excellent. It has an excellent camera, has an excellent screen. Blah blah blah. But it's like how exciting and good can you make the software? You know what I mean?
Right.
Because that's the user interface. That's what people like. That's why a lot of people go to Android, because it's it's customizable. You can do so much stuff on it. But then stuff comes around where there's like a big virus thing where you download viruses and you don't even know about it, and it's constantly tracking you. It's constantly listening to you. It can turn the the camera on without you knowing. I mean, there's a lot of faults.
I'm convinced that they all do that shit. Because, I mean, we've been sitting around having full-on conversations about stuff that you'd never even fucking Googled before.
Yeah, I know.
It'll pop up on a Facebook feed or some shit like that. And
that's why I don't have an Amazon Alexa, because it is proven time and time again that it's been, Amazon has been recording it, and then you can actually go to like a certain website and find out exactly what it's been recording of you, and it says they'll keep the recordings unless you delete them. Like, well, shouldn't it automatically? Why is it recording? Why can't it just listen? You know what I mean?
Yeah, this just feels like it's going to be some sort of technology in the future for the government to control everybody. Like, guess what? You have to have an Amazon Alexa in your house now if you want to.
They're putting them everywhere. They're putting them in cars now.
I know, man. It's kind of scary, like, because I feel like it's going to be the military state. When the government collapses and it's all fucking crazy in the end of the times, and guess what? Everybody's going to have an Amazon Alexa, and it's going to be that weird utopia or dystopian future where if you don't have an Amazon Alexa, you're going to get thrown in jail because you have to be monitored everywhere you go.
Or it's like the only form of currency is going to be through one of these companies, like Apple came out with the new credit card or Apple Card or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like all it is the Apple Pay card that everybody already has on their phone. It's just physical. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like a prepaid Visa, but it's like, why would I need to go through Apple to do that? I mean, they're like, yeah, you can use it with Apple Pay. I mean, honestly, out of all the tech companies, I don't know. I mean, it might be just excellent marketing. It might be, just the way they do things. But in my personal opinion, I feel like Apple is the most dead set on privacy, though, out of all of them.
I mean, sure. They made claims about, we love your. They got new commercials about how much your privacy is valued with Apple and shit like that. But then they get caught selling your information.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Fuck yeah! There was recently they were showed that they were giving out information, or I think it was at least they were holding on to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
So they could sell you more shit.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, the big part is that Apple gets most of their money off because all their software is in-house, which is extremely secretive. So that's why there's less, viruses and whatnot. All their hardware is mostly in-house.
Right.
So, I mean, everything works together very well for them. And security is a lot easier because they have everything sandboxed. Like, it's not open source like Android and Microsoft where people can look at the source code and just start messing with shit, and then you get viruses. And people have like, oh, this code does this and that to the computer. You can just do all kinds of stuff, but like with Apple, you can't.
Right.
So I mean, there's trade-offs, but there's also, Anyways, let's move on to this, man, because I'm sure people are just tuned out. They're just like, no, I don't want to listen to this shit anymore. So I had this. I posted this picture on Instagram about back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It was a poster. And it said, it's basically a picture of a child, and it was for cocaine candy. So it's Heater Hall's cocaine, guaranteed to deaden that sweet tooth. The lick that lasts, a contemporary confection. Get your kicks from Lollipop Licks. It's 5 cents. Comes in a bunch of really weird flavors. Whorehound, kumquat, spinach, mushroom, poppy, and hemlock.
Spinach and mushroom, huh?
Yeah. So I was like, this is super fake. And it says imported by Brazil Nuts. And I was like, bullshit, this is super fake. Well, I actually looked into it, and from what I can tell, this is real.
What
the candy that takes you on a trip. The sweet that swing. It was cocaine candy. Is basically they put cocaine in a lollipop and then gave it to kids. Maybe this poster isn't real, but like I said, as far as I know, it is. But even if it isn't real, I do know that they, did give cocaine to children back then.
Sure, everybody had cocaine back then.
Yeah, it was like just a regular medicine that you could buy over the counter. It was like Tylenol, and it was like a cure-all thing. And so I was like, well, hopefully in the future we don't look back on like different things like Adderall and stuff as this cure-all. It helps everybody, and then they're like, why would you give your kids that? I can't believe it. It's just crazy. Like, what else do you think that we could look back on in, I don't know, 50 years? Like, what do you think we would look back on that we would just be mortified that we actually were giving people this?
Probably opiates.
Yeah. Opiates. They're like, yeah, man, it'll help you. It's a cure-all for everything. It's the best pain reliever on the planet. And now it's like everybody's addicted to it.
But I mean, I guess, I don't know, some shit like Ritalin, like, how could you give that to your kids? Makes them into little zombies, and, I get, it helps them focus. The teachers can deal with these kids now. If a teacher comes to me about my kid and is like, hey, your kid is having trouble paying attention, I think you should get him on Ritalin. I'm already tuned out by then.
Yep.
Because then I automatically think, well, then you're a shitty fucking teacher.
So I'm not going to give him Ritalin. I'm just going to go give him cocaine.
Yeah. Well,
it's a stimulant.
I mean, I've had teachers approach me like, there's been one in the last couple of years that we've been in Kentucky, and, she was a piece of shit. I sat there and had a conference with her, and Isabella's other teachers since then haven't said a fucking word about it. She was the only one. And the reason is because she was a burned out teacher. She was fed up with teaching kids. She probably couldn't handle children and had no business being a teacher, honestly. If she's making suggestions like that, like, well, Isabella has trouble concentrating, this, that, and the other. And I was already like, I tuned her out. I was like, you know what? I looked her in the face. I was like, I'm not going to put my kid on drugs because you can't handle her. I was like,
no kidding.
I was like, I know how my daughter acts. I know she can be a little bit rambunctious, but you know what? Maybe you should spend a little bit more time with her and explain things to her. Like, I understand
do your job. Be a teacher.
I understand you have other students to deal with, but that's not my problem. That's your problem. You are the one that decided to be a teacher.
Yeah.
So maybe you should step up and be an actual fucking teacher instead of recommending some bullshit drugs to put my child on.
Yeah, so she'll chill out, and then you can just sit there and talk, and then sit down and do nothing for the rest of the day.
These teachers' ideologies of, well, let's get these 11 and 12, fucking 10-year-old children on drugs already, this age.
Yeah.
What the fuck do you think it's going to do to them in the future?
Yeah, no kidding.
You're turning a 10-year-old child into a fucking addict.
Yeah, and not just that. What is that called when you feel like you're sick of all the time? Hypochondria?
A hypochondriac? Yeah.
Yeah, it'd turn you into one of those, really.
Well, I don't know about that, but I know for a fact it'd turn you into somebody who has a reliance on prescription drugs.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's
I
what the pharmaceutical
these drugs
company
to calm
wants,
down.
baby.
I know, man, but it's not only that. It's some of these teachers out here that are perpetuating this bullshit, and it drives me fucking crazy. Like, I understand a teacher is a very hard job. I couldn't do it. I get it.
Yeah.
I really get it. But you know what? It's not like somebody put a gun to your head and said, hey, you're going to go be a fucking teacher.
Yeah, some people actually want to be a teacher, and it's like,
right.
I think there needs to be more training. I think there needs to be a more rigorous program for teachers to go through before they start.
Well, not only that, I think the curriculum needs to change in schools, too, because the curriculum is completely unrealistic with these bullshit standardized tests.
Yeah, I mean, it's really biased.
Yeah, man, the standardized tests have been proven time and again that some of them don't even have legitimate answers that the kids can give.
Yeah.
Like that McGraw-Hill bullshit where they were like, well, this question doesn't have an answer, and there's not even the correct one on the page, and they just sent out thousands and thousands of these tests everywhere, all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And they're expensive. And schools are like eating this shit up, like, well, we're going to base our curriculum around this whole standardized test. How does a standardized test practically train you for the real world?
Exactly.
How about teach a kid how to balance a checkbook, how to make a budget?
Yep. Well, I mean, a big thing with that though is if you have all these people that know how to do taxes, they know what to look out for in the job market and stuff like that. I think everybody would just be too ready, and they wouldn't be there. There'd be nobody to dig ditches.
That's disgusting, though. I mean,
I know
that's
it is
fucking bullshit.
But, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that would be people would just be like, well, this is the way we need to do it. We need some people to be dumb, and we need this class system. But it's like, I mean, that's only for, this is me being a conspiracy theorist, but it's like, the rich and wealthy, they just want dumb people so they can pay them less, and then they can just get on with their day.
Well, I read an article earlier about how automation is really affecting certain industries, like food service is one of the biggest ones.
Really?
Because I mean, where does they're suggesting, the McKinsey Institute is suggesting that millions of jobs are going to be displaced by automation. I mean, obviously, you're still going to have a few dummies back there slicing up vegetables or whatever. But honestly, the service part of it, you don't need a person. You could just order it off a tablet or a kiosk like they have in McDonald's or
the little
Panera
kiosk thing that they have at like Chili's.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You order your food off of it, and then they bring it out.
All you need is somebody to bring it to you and say, "Hey, is everything okay? Cool."
Yep.
And then you pay on it, and you just leave.
Yep.
So I mean, and the McKinsey Institute was talking about these soft skills that kids would normally get through these entry-level jobs. They're not going to get them anymore.
No.
And the millennial generation and newer rather, they're already really, really stupid. Like they don't have any soft skills. There's no customer no customer service skills. There's no tenacity. There's no initiative. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And I also read that, people 16-year-olds and the like, 18 to 16 or whatever, aren't seeking out summer employment because they don't want to.
Well, they're like, well, I don't really have to. I'm under, like, that's just
why would I go
crazy.
get a job?
It's like 16 through 18-year-olds, back. I mean, it was kind of like that when, you and I were growing up and stuff. But as soon as I turned 16, I had a job.
Yeah, me too.
And now it's just like, these kids are just like, well, I'll just sit at home. Like, there's some people that are almost 30 that are still chilling with mom and dad. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And they're like, well, and they don't want to get a job. It's just like, well, you can't do that forever. And then they're like, well, I'm not happy. And then it's like, well, no shit.
Well,
you gotta go get it.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, the mind frame is, well, I should start at management. But like, oh, really? You should start at you should get $15 an hour? Excuse me. Well, like, what skills do you have?
Like, well, I'm great with Dragons
people.
Really good.
Yeah, well, you're great with people. How do you know you're fucking great with people? You've never had a goddamn job. You're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, I hate to, paint people in that respect, but that's how it is. Like, and I see it all the fucking time in fast food, like quick service industry. Mm-hmm. It's like, you go and stop and get a burger or something. And like, what do you want? Like, fuck you. What do I want? How can I help you today?
Yeah.
Whatever happened to have a nice day? Thank you.
That's why Chick-fil-A is crushing it.
That's why Chick-fil-A, they've gone back to the basics.
Yeah.
Like, everybody has a smile. Everybody speaks to you respectfully. Everybody, says, my pleasure. I love to make them say my pleasure as many times as I possibly can because it's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, this is a novel idea. Like, McDonald's doesn't do that. Burger King doesn't do that. You name it. I mean, even in the more, upscale places like Panera, their food is great, yeah, but you're not going to get the most friendly of people every time you go into a Panera.
Yeah, same thing with Dairy Queen. That's like the worst.
Dude, I went to KFC the other day, and the lady was such a cunt. I was like, I'll never come back to this KFC or any other. And that's what it does to people. Like, when you have a shitty experience with one thing, it's like, man, I don't want to give this brand another chance. It's like ridiculous. She was such an asshole to me and my kid that I'm like, dude, I will never come to this one again, at the very least. I may not ever go to a KFC again just because this one person ruined my whole experience. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, and it's not just kids. It's not just kids. Like, everybody's like, the generation above us wants to blame the millennials. They want to put it all on the millennials' shoulders, like we're the bane of everybody's existence. It's not just the millennials. It's definitely part of it, but there's also fucking adults out there, in their 40s and 50s who are baby boomers that are pieces of shit who are ruining, this whole entire segment, which is a huge part of jobs in the United States. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
There's tons of quick service restaurants all over the place. And, you got people in their late 30s, early 40s who are pieces of shit. And they have no clue what customer service is. They look like shit. They don't bathe. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, and that's when I got to looking at it. It's like, it's not just the millennials.
Yeah. No, it most certainly isn't. And I think, like, another big thing with that is because every time I would, bring something up about this whole millennial thing, and I hate to label anybody like that, but it's like, because what you think about when you hear a millennial, you think somebody that's like super entitled, and that word entitled is what pisses me off, because it's like,
it gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah, but it's like, somebody comes in and asks for a raise or something at work, like they've been busting their ass and they're just like, yeah, I'd like to get a raise, please. And they're just like, man, you millennials are just so entitled. It's like, no, man, I just know what my worth is. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's what I've argued too.
Because a good working, hard working person is really hard to come by nowadays. And I mean somebody that truly works hard, not just thinks they work hard. I mean, coming home and your feet hurt, absolutely exhausted, like he'd barely stand up in the shower. I mean, not every day, but I'm just saying that is a rare
commodity. Yeah, for sure.
And it's like, that person knows their worth and they want to get compensated for it. And, and I've known a couple people, and it's just like, I know one that's, she's a super hard-working woman, very hard worker, doesn't make mistakes, always there on time, works, past the bell, does whatever needs to get done, and then doesn't get paid for shit.
Right.
And I'm like, well, why don't you ask for a raise? Well, I did, but, they just kept throwing the thing at me. You're just a millennial. You're entitled. Like, bullshit. That's not true. It's just ridiculous, man. I hate the whole.
Well, that's becoming a quick cop out now for members of management and leadership. It is, look, you want to raise. Unbelievable. How could you want to raise? You're just a millennial. You're entitled. You guys just don't think you think your shit don't stink. But in reality, it's like, dude, no, we actually need more money.
Yeah, because back in the day, my grandfather was, had a stay-at-home wife and 6 children, and he supported them all. You could never fucking do that now.
With one fucking income. Yeah, I bought my house for $70,000, and it lasted for the last 70 years.
Yeah, you're just like, cool beans, but you could never do that now.
No,
there's no way you could live on your there's no way you could be just one simple income and a stay-at-home wife and 6 children. It's impossible. There's no way you could do it now.
Dude, you'd have to have a 6-figure salary.
Yeah,
if you
or more.
And then you'd probably still struggle. Yeah. But I'm saying, the starter home is disappearing. There no longer are builders building since the housing bubble of 2008. Mm-hmm. Builders have been building less and less, starter homes.
Like the cheaper, smaller ones.
So millennials can't go out there and buy a house.
Nah, you got to put yourself $250,000 in debt if you want to get a house.
Right. Right. That's
like most
what I'm
houses
saying.
are $250,000 or more, and it's
But the thing is, the generation above us is like, well, maybe if you planned it out better and worked harder and this, oh my God, you can only fucking work so hard before you die.
Yeah.
What do you want us to do? Cut our arms off? Will that be enough? Because I know I work my ass off to get what I've gotten.
Yeah, me too.
It's nothing to, shake a stick at. I mean, my wife and I have a nice little house. It's definitely a starter home. We got really lucky in finding a starter home. And I'm here to tell you, there's not a lot where I'm at. And I'm sure it's the same thing in Austin. Everybody's building custom homes.
Yeah, they're building these housing developments, communities. So everything's gated. Everything, all these communities are cookie cutter houses.
Yeah, but the houses are like 200. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and you're paying the fee, and then there's but we have a on campus or whatever the hell it is. Swimming pool, we have a gym here. It's like
a little community center. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we don't need all that, man. I just need a freaking house.
Yeah. And then the HOA makes you pay a little bit more so they can plant flowers at the front of the neighborhood or whatever and maintain the sidewalks.
Like $3,000 a year for HOA. You're like, dude, whatever, man.
Yeah. And then they tell you, well, you can't paint your door this color. Yeah, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, watch me.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying, man. It's like even our parents' generation, they're like, you guys, you guys just bitch and complain, you should have went to school and this, that, and the other. And I'm like,
we did.
Well, I went to school, but I'm here to tell you, being, $20,000 in debt is pretty daunting when you come out and you got to really scramble to find a really good job.
Yeah.
And I stumbled into a really good job. And I never thought in my life that I'd be making decent money the way I am. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm like, oh my God, I'm making millions of dollars or anything, but I can pay my bills. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
And there's people out there that are making, a lot of money who are in the baby boomer generation. And they're like, I don't understand why they can't just go out and get a fucking job. There's plenty of jobs. Yes, there's plenty of jobs. But when you can't afford to fucking get gas because you're paying off your, $100,000 student loan, then there's a problem.
Yeah. And paying a $1,300 mortgage, that's if you have good credit.
Right. I mean, you're probably not going to get a house. You're going to rent the rest of your life. And statistics show that more and more millennials are renting for the rest of their lives and have no will to go get a home because they can't afford it.
Exactly. It's impossible.
Either that or they don't want to put up with the bullshit associated with a mortgage.
Yeah,
homeowners
association, house insurance, you need all this other crap. Because you got to think, man, I mean, it's all based on your credit score. Think about, like, well, I was just talking about Grandpa where he, raised 6 kids with the house. Right. Do you think there was a such thing as a credit score back then?
I'm sure there was, but I don't know if it was that big of a deal.
I don't think so. I don't think it was as big a deal as it is now, to where it's like, if you want this loan, we'll give it to you, but you got to put, $5,000 down, or 20% of the total cost of the house, like $50,000. Yeah. Then you have to put, have all this collateral, and then you also have to have, a crazy high interest rate. So it's like, if you go over the full term of this 15-year fixed rate loan, it'll be, instead of $250,000 at the price of it is, you'd be paying like $600,000.
See, and that's, but to play devil's advocate, this is where school needs to teach these kids how to budget and save money, and show them what it means to actually save money. And the parents these days need to teach their kids, look, when you get a job, you can't just squander it all. If you need to stay at your mom and dad's house and save up as much as you possibly can, or pay off your student debt and then go buy a house, then that's what you need to do. Because, and I mean, that's part of it. But, not everybody wants to stay in their mom and dad's basement for the rest of their lives, paying off $100,000 of debt.
Yeah.
There's ways to do it, but it's fewer and fewer ways to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's no, I mean, go on Indeed and just look at any number of jobs. And most of them require a 4-year degree now. They don't really give a shit what it's in, as long as it's a 4-year degree.
Yeah.
Which is going to cost, upwards of $100,000.
Yeah.
Or, something like that.
They require like 4 years experience, but you
exactly.
have to have.
You got to have. I just got out of school. What the fuck do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I worked at McDonald's.
You just got out of school? Here's an internship, so we don't have to pay you.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll see if you're worth it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I understand that. I kind of get both sides of it. Yes, there's jobs out there and people need to go get them. But if you can't even afford to pay rent, you can't pay for fuel or food for yourself, you have to stay with mom and dad, then, something's kind of wrong with that. It doesn't make sense. If you're putting somebody out there starting out with $100,000 in debt, and the only jobs that are available to them is like a stock clerk at fucking Kroger.
Yeah.
Here's $10 an hour. But I have a bachelor's in fucking criminal justice or some crazy shit like that. Like, whoa, why don't you go do this? Well, there's no fucking jobs in that. And I think another thing we need to, advocate on this podcast at least is maybe college isn't right for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe kids need to start looking at skilled trades, because there is no shame in being a plumber or an electrician or a fucking master carpenter, because those people out there, they can make 6 figures easily.
Yeah.
And guess what? You don't have to go to school for 4 years.
Yeah, I know it.
And you don't have to be in fucking debt.
Well, I was just thinking about this, because I know there's a lot of talk about the minimum wage thing.
Yeah.
And I just looked it up, and it says the minimum wage in let's just start from 1980. 1980 was $3.10 an hour.
Yeah.
Was the minimum wage, and then it jumped up in 1981 to $3.35, and then in 1990 to $3.80. So 9 years later, and then 1991, $4.25. 1996, 5 years later, $4.75. 1997, $5.15, and then 10 years later, 2007, at $5.85. And then the next year was $6.55, almost went up a whole dollar. And then up
in
to
2007, it was what?
$5.85 was the minimum wage.
Yeah, I was making $5.85 back then.
Yep. And then 2008, it went up to $6.55, and then 2009 went up to $7.25. So it hasn't changed in 10 years.
Well, now in some places I think it's 8. Well, no, in like bigger places like Seattle, it's up to 15.
15, yeah. I know, but it's like the federal minimum wage is $7.25, and it's like That was 2009. So it's like, I know inflation is just getting out of control. So it's like, the minimum wage hasn't changed with inflation at all.
But the thing is, a lot of these people want $15 an hour, and that's kind of where this weird line is drawn in the sand. Like, I see both sides of the argument. Like, yes, you can't make a living on $7.25 an hour, and you want $15 an hour. But at the same time, I'm like, that doesn't solve anything.
Mm-hmm.
If you get boosted to $15 an hour, everybody has to pay more. Period.
Yeah.
Like, groceries go up, the price of fuel goes up, everything
or
goes up.
Or some of these
because
CEOs
labor
can take a little bit of a pay cut, but they're not going to do that because they
That's
got
not
to
gonna
have a
well-
30-foot yacht, not a 28 one.
Well, I mean, you can't blame them.
Well, I'm just saying, like, so $1 in 2009 is now worth $1.19 in 2019. So
I mean, it's
it's gone up,
dude.
what, 20%? And minimum wage hasn't changed. What was it? So let's see, 2009, $1. So let's just round it up to 20%. So let me see if minimum wage was to keep track, $7.25. Oops. Time. There we go. So minimum wage should be $8.70 if it was keeping up with inflation.
Right.
So, it hasn't kept track. It hasn't. I don't know. It's just ridiculous how they handle this crap, man.
Yeah, it's really strange. It is really strange.
Yeah,
but I mean, at the same token, on this part, like, people should seek out better, betterment of themselves.
Yeah, for sure. Like, you have to know your worth. Don't go in there and somebody's going to throw entitled in your face. Don't take it. Just be like,
now you have to work for it. You have to work
definitely.
for it.
You're not gonna. It's not gonna be handed to you. It's not gonna land in your lap. You got to work really, really hard for it, especially because you have to impress. You have to impress the bosses, and they got to think that, oh, this guy's worth it.
Worth it.
And then, you have to know your worth and ask for the money you feel like you're worth, but don't be like, oh, I need $100 an hour, but I only work, 8 hours a week.
Yeah.
You got to bust your ass. But anyways, let's take a quick break, man. When we come back, I got a controversial argument between caramel and caramel. Stick around.
Oh, my God.
All right, welcome back to the Pull It Back podcast. So I know we were going to talk about the caramel thing, but real quick, because I had this stuff set up and I forgot to bring it up because we were going down a rabbit hole. It was how much debt is the average American making versus how much the average American is in debt. So
what?
The average,
basically, how much the American brings in income versus how much they are in debt.
Yes. How much debt is the average American in versus how much the average American makes? So they are, on average, excluding home mortgages, is $38,000 in debt and $56,000 in income. So it's basically normal,
Right.
But people in 13 different states owe more than they get paid, led by West Virginia, which has an average debt-to-income ratio of 127%.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck?
I guess people in West Virginia just love to be in debt. So I know my home state in Texas, we're at 100%. So basically every dollar we make, we spend it on debt.
Damn.
And like I said, these are not including mortgages. So let me see.
Which is sad. That's a really sad state of affairs when it's not even included in mortgage.
And you know what's really messed up? If you look at the map, it's mostly southern states that are super in debt.
And what's weird is in these super southern states, they have the most egregious laws and crazy fucking taxes versus how much income, and they're the most religious.
Yeah, usually.
Which is so fucking weird to me.
Well, Kentucky's at 91%, if you wanted to know.
Well, that's good, I guess.
Louisiana is at 116%. The only southern state, really the only prior Confederate state that isn't in over 100% in debt is what is that? Mississippi.
Really? Mississippi.
Yeah. Mississippi's at 83%, so that's like one of the better ones. And
I
you know what blows my
mind?
mind?
The oil industry.
Well, what blows my mind and what makes me kind of think this might be a BS one is that California is at 74%.
Well, I don't know because there's places in California. It's probably, kind of like a state by state thing, like a total state. Because there's places in California, like in Sacramento, in LA, and places in Silicon Valley and shit like that.
Yeah.
That everybody's making millions of dollars.
I know everybody's making a lot of money there.
That kind of off-puts it, or skews their numbers kind of because
I think there's a lot of
rich people.
There's a lot of pretty good public transportation in big cities in California.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people are buying cars anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of them are going electric or they're riding bicycles or whatever, taking Ubers.
Yeah.
And then another one that doesn't have very, very high debt to limit ratio is Hawaii. They're 69%. So it's
because everybody over there is just chilling.
Yeah, they don't need a car. One, because gas is too damn expensive, and two, cars are way too expensive. So they're just like, fuck it, we'll just walk.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I just thought that was crazy. It was basically all of your paycheck goes to your debt. It's just too damn easy to get into debt in America. So they're just like, fuck it, let's do it.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, that's all I had, man. I just wanted to bring that up.
It's fucking crazy.
So, what was it that you said you had? Didn't you say you had something you wanted to talk about?
Oh no, we can talk. It was a little quick game, but we can do that after the.
Oh yeah, the
I feel like
thing.
this.
Okay.
I feel like this debate's more important than the game
yes,
right now.
most certainly. So, there's been a centuries-old debate about what to call it, how you pronounce it, whether it be an accent, whether it be anything. Caramel versus caramel.
It's definitely caramel.
Well, I want to know what you guys think. So put a comment on Instagram post, I guess. I don't know how you would do that. But anyways, caramel.
Spell it out.
Spell it out.
It's caramel, not caramel.
Yeah, it's like spell it out and then spell check corrects you every time. So, okay. So to clarify this, when people talk about caramel, you're talking about like the caramel syrup you put on ice cream and stuff that's in like Snickers bars and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Caramel is actually a name of a place or person.
It's Indiana.
But it is defined by a mountain range in North Israel.
Really?
Yes.
I know there's a place in Indiana that's called Carmel.
Oh, I'm sure there's like plenty of cities, but like the most, by definition of Carmel is a mountain range in North Israel.
Really?
Yeah, Carmel Mountains. So caramel is defined by a chewy, light brown candy made from butter, sugar, milk, or cream. Caramel is a misspelling when used in those contexts, but is a word that can be used as a name for people or places.
So people who use caramel are dumb fucks.
Yes. Stop using caramel. It's caramel. Because I know everybody says, like, everybody knows what you're talking about. You can't be like, yeah, I was talking about the mountain range in North Israel. No. You're talking about the sweet, buttery, sugary, light brown candy called caramel.
Caramel.
Yeah, Caramel.
I mean, there's two A's in it. How the fuck do you get caramel out of that?
Yeah.
Man, that looks like caramel to me.
Well, it's like when people misspell desert and dessert.
I guess, but I mean, wouldn't it be caramel?
Caramel?
Caramel would be the best. Caramel.
Caramel. Yeah, it's caramel.
Caramel.
Yeah, the desert and dessert thing. If you ever need this tip, because I know I've used it dozens of times. Desert, you only want to go there once, so it only has one S. But dessert has two S's because you want seconds. Get it?
That's a good one.
Yeah, so I've used that on countless occasions to help me out. So just remember that. So if you didn't learn anything from this podcast, you can at least learn that.
Yeah, you don't want to go to the dessert.
Yeah. You don't want to go to the desert twice. So you only put one S because you only want to go there once. You don't want to go,
Fuck yeah.
Anti-wholesome. So we have a new segment that we're going to start with most of these. We're going to be talking about cars. So the new segment of the Pull It Back podcast is called Road Noise, where we talk about cars. I'll put in like a little audio thing there that sounds like a car engine, maybe. So it's like road noise. Yeah. Or a little beep of a horn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I was driving to work the other day, and I had to make a stop somewhere, and it took me to this, like, basically my GPS took me somewhere else, and it was like, I came up to this roundabout, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows what roundabouts are. They're popping up left and right. It's basically a 4-way intersection, but instead of there being stop signs, it's just a big loop. So people, you merge, and there's people already going, and like you have to yield and blah blah. So I mean, it's just it's kind of stupid. I like a 4-way intersection myself. I like that better than a roundabout.
I disagree, man, because the 4-way intersection, the etiquette there.
I know
people are
going to
go when they're not supposed to go. They're just on their phone. They're just dumbasses on the 4-way intersection that don't know how to use it.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like the roundabout's a little more efficient because everybody keeps moving. There's no actual real stopping.
Well, the thing with etiquette with a roundabout, though, is that people will just drive, like, because I mean, especially the roundabouts that are 2 lanes. You know, you have the inside lane, which is the one that you just keep going around in circles.
Yeah.
Until you have to get off somewhere or whatever. But then the outside lane is the one where it's like, oh, I'm turning right, or this is my next stop or whatever.
Right.
So it's like, some people will just keep going in that outside lane, so then you have nowhere to go, and then you're just waiting, and then you finally pull out, and there's somebody hauling ass behind you, and then honking and blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, why do we have to be so European? Like, look how European we are. Like, the 4-way stop signs or diamond intersections are way better than roundabouts. The diamond intersection has the least amount of car accidents, and it also is the most efficient. Science has proven.
I don't know. I have to go with Mythbusters on this one because they showed that the roundabout is much more efficient. I don't know if they
said the roundabout was as efficient as a 4-way intersection. It was the exact same. They had the same amount of cars go through it.
You sure?
Yes, I'm positive.
I don't remember. Honestly, you got to be a little aggressive on a roundabout, but I feel like it keeps everything moving.
Yeah, I mean, you feel like you're going faster, but I mean, it just pisses me off. I just don't like it because I mean that's a European thing. We have the 4-way intersection. Stop trying to be like Europe. It doesn't work. We're not Europe.
Well, I think they're much better, especially if you're in a new Kia Stinger GTS. Have you heard about this?
Nice segue.
Yeah,
yes,
for sure.
Yes, I have.
Freaking coming out with all-wheel drive drift mode. So,
it's all-wheel drive?
All-wheel drive.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Of course, they have a rear-wheel drive version only, but they also have those all-wheel drives for those of, maybe want to drive in the snow. It's usually mostly rear-wheel biased. Up to 80% goes to the rear wheels and 20% to the front. And that's about all you can get. You can't get it, 100% to the rear so you can drift. But in this new drift mode that's coming out in the GTS, and I think it only comes in this orange color, which I kind of like screwy colors like that.
Yeah.
It's between the GT and the GT1, and it's called the GTS, and it comes with the all-wheel drive drift mode for those of you that still want to drive around in the snow, but also want to drift around your roundabouts.
Yeah, you can drift in your street car on roads, which is illegal because nobody's going to take a Kia to a racetrack, except people that work for like Car and Driver magazine or Motor Trend or something. Those are the only people that are going to take a car like that to a racetrack.
I would. Kia Stingers are badass. Well, I mean,
it'll sit in the garage. You'll commute every day to work, and then you'll step on the gas to get on an on ramp, and that's about as far as you're going to go.
Well, I mean, if your city's chock-a-block with roundabouts, you can drift around them, make work fun. The morning commute is just more interesting now.
Yeah, I'm sure insurance for those things are going to be through the roof.
Nah.
But anyways, what kind of power unit does it have? I heard is
got a 3.3. No, it's got a 3.3 liter 6 cylinder twin turbo.
Oh.
It makes something crazy like almost 400 horsepower, I think.
Damn.
Yeah, it's a serious, sports saloon. It's quick.
Nice.
Yeah, they look really good too.
They do look pretty cool, man. And I'm glad Kia finally changed their logo.
Yeah.
They finally made it to where it's the because they had an international logo. It looked like a little K, but it was like kind of cut off, and then the one we had here was just a K. It just said Kia, and it was just really basic. So they finally changed it because they're trying to change their their brand image as being pieces of shit disposable cameras, and now they're trying to be this real nice, safe, economical car company.
Yeah, for sure.
Which I'm proud of them. I'm proud of you, Kia. Because that new Soul, I do like it. The new 2019 Kia Soul.
Yeah,
I like it. It looks cool.
Their cars are starting to look really freaking good, and I mean Hyundai with their Genesis class cars are fucking. The G70 is absolutely gorgeous, and I think it has. I want to say it has the same power plant as a Kia Stinger, and it's one of the few cars, luxury sedans that I've seen that is optional with a 6-speed manual.
Nice.
You don't see that.
Yeah, you don't see a 6-speed manual anymore.
Shit. The new Mustang GT500 doesn't even come with a standard transmission.
Really?
So, yeah.
Is it optional?
It's automatic only.
Oh, I didn't know that.
As far as I've seen, I'm pretty sure they only offer it in automatic.
That's heartbreaking.
Which I was like, what the fuck?
Especially with all this shit coming out with Ford, with their transmissions. There's this big recall for faulty transmissions in I think it was the Fiesta and the Focus.
Yeah.
With their, I don't remember exactly what the model number was, but it's a transmission. They have this big recall because, Ford knew it was a faulty transmission, but they went through with it anyway. And so now they have this huge recall because they don't want to replace transmissions. It costs way too much money. But it's just weird. Like they'd be like, well, our automatics are better than a manual, but it's like, well, I mean, sure, they're probably faster, more economical, but it's not as fun, especially with a car with that much power.
No, hell no, absolutely not.
I think it should be mandatory. Anything that has over a car, at least anything that has over 400 horsepower should be almost required to have a manual.
Well, it's got to be at least an option.
Well, I mean, I think it should be required because it makes you pay attention to the road more if you have a manual, because it's more engaging. If you have an automatic and you have that much power, you just push the pedal down and you're going, and then you start texting, and then you start doing your hair, you start doing whatever, and then you lose control and smash into the back of a school bus. I mean, why don't you just...
people do that shit with a manual transmission all the time, too, but...
There's less of it, especially,
Well, it's definitely a crime deterrent.
Definitely.
People need to think about that, because there's very few people that know how to drive a manual transmission these days.
Yeah.
Very, very few, because, manual transmissions are almost dead. You don't see, if you see a car with somebody driving a manual transmission, you're like, holy shit, that car's got a manual transmission.
I know.
You just don't see it.
It's also a drunk driver deterrent, because think about it. If you and a buddy drove your car to a bar, I'm just going to have one beer and call it good, and then you both get smashed and your buddy doesn't know how to drive stick, we're just going to have to call an Uber.
You're fucking stuck.
Yeah. I guess we're going to have to call an Uber, man. I don't have a choice. I can't drive stick. You're just like, oh, come on, David, you're good.
Yeah.
Let's just sit down right here for a second.
My wife and I got into an argument about that. I'm like, I'm going to go buy a Mustang. I'm going to do it. I was just going to do it, be stupid, and go way into debt.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, make sure you get an automatic. I was like, no, we're not getting a Mustang now. She's like, well, that's fine with me. I was like, you ruined my life just now.
Why? Because she wants to drive it?
And she's like, well, I want to drive it. And I was like, no,
you're going to have to learn how to drive stick.
Yeah, you're going to have to learn to drive stick. Yeah, that's unfair. How is that unfair? It's my fucking car.
Yeah, I know how to drive stick.
Well,
you
I
don't.
Want to drive it too.
That's about as fair as it gets.
How about you just stand outside and look at it?
Yeah, don't touch it.
She's like, I was like, I'll teach you. She's like, you're not a good teacher. I was like, oh my God.
You're not a good
I'm
student.
a great teacher on how to teach somebody how to drive a standard. You are just too goddamn stubborn and don't want to do what I tell you. Because I tried to teach her how to drive my truck when I had that 96 F-150.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay. And she actually started driving it. Like, she started driving it pretty good. And I was like, okay, now, here's what I want you to make sure you balance the clutch out. She's like, shut up, I can do it. I'm like, you know what? If you're not going to do it right, get the fuck out.
Yeah.
She's like, see, you don't have any patience. It's like, I was trying to tell you how to do it correctly, and you're continuing to doing it wrong. See, this is the problem with wives, you know?
Yep.
Just, what do you know? Well, I don't know. I've only known how to drive these standard transmissions for a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I
maybe
could drive.
10 years.
Yeah. But anyways, I was driving to work the other day, and I saw that new Cadillac XT.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a big GM fan by any means, but I do like that new Cadillac, and actually I like most of the new Cadillacs.
Yeah,
because they do look good, man. They look like that concept. I forgot the name of it, but it was a concept that was back in, I think, like 2002, 2012, one of those.
Yeah,
it was like super long, and it was just cool looking. They're like starting to follow that design.
Yeah. I will say, you know, I do agree with you on that. The new Cadillacs are actually the only GM vehicles that look worth a shit.
Yeah, they do look really good. I totally dig them. So anyways, also just to do a recap real quick, with the final thing for road noise is the Formula One British Grand Prix.
Oh.
So it was this past Sunday, and it was, I mean, probably one of the most exciting races that I've seen this year so far. Hamilton won, so it was his, home turf. He won again. Bottas came in second, and then Charles Leclerc took third.
Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, he's this new hot shot.
Chanticleer.
Yeah, he's the new hot shot that's driving for Ferrari. And I mean, it was an excellent race, man. Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen were going at it, and Vettel ended up backing it, or hitting his back end, so they wrecked. But Verstappen still ended up getting, I think, 5th or 6th or something. And then Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc they raced the whole entire race. They were just going at it with each other. It was so good. Just swap and play. It was really good racing. So, but anyways, congrats to Mr. Lewis Hamilton for the win again. Getting a little tired of seeing you win, buddy. Just saying.
Yeah, I like Lewis Hamilton though. He's fucking awesome.
He is. He's an excellent. And the thing that was most crazy about it is that Bottas, which is the other Mercedes driver, Bottas was, he got pole position. He was running the fastest laps. I mean, he was crushing it the whole race. And then during towards the end of the race, they had Bottas pit, and they were going to have Hamilton pit, but Hamilton was like, "Nah, he's like, I'm good. My tires are still good," because he was on hard tires. And they were like, "Yeah, you can definitely go to the end of the race," but they were like, just to make sure, we can get you in and get you out still in the lead and blah blah blah. So Hamilton just decided to stay out and said no. And then the very last lap, somehow on hard compound tires, put the very last lap, he ran the fastest lap, a new lap record.
Shit.
On hard tires that were 20 laps old, and didn't have the fastest car. It was just crazy. That was just the best damn driving you could have seen. So, I mean, like I said, props to him. He's excellent. Yeah, he's going to be a legend. He's got the most wins of all time for the British Grand Prix. And I just want to see somebody else win, man. I'm getting tired of it.
Oh, Lewis Hamilton. He's going to be
it's every week. It's Mercedes 1-2, Mercedes 1-2, Mercedes 1-2. It's ugh.
I know. It's like back in the day with Schumacher and Raikkonen, or Schumacher and who was the other guy?
Mika Hakkinen.
Mika Hakkinen and oh God.
What's
the other one?
Jensen Button.
No.
He's more recent though.
Oh my God.
David Coulthard.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, man. But anyways,
God. Who was the it was Ferrari always 1-2 in the 90s.
Yeah.
Who the fuck was that?
It was Michael Schumacher. He had his brother Ralph Schumacher. And then I think
I know Schumacher.
Schumacher's teammate, the other Ferrari driver, was Barrichello.
Rubens Barrichello. That's who it was.
Yeah, Rubens Barrichello.
Yeah, that's who it was. That's who I remember.
Yeah,
just always every weekend.
Every week.
1-2, 1-2, 1-2.
Well, apparently next year, I guess they kind of already started it this year, but they're doing essentially salary caps for the teams.
Yes, I saw that.
So it's like you can only spend X amount of money, so it comes down to the engineering. You know what I mean? It's not how much money you throw at it, because Mercedes throws the most amount of money out of any Formula One team.
Well, and that's what Mercedes was like bitching about. Like they always threaten to pull out, like or either
that's Red Bull.
Like we're going to pull out. Yeah,
Red Bull
we're going to
pull out. We're going to pull out every year.
And like fucking do it, pull out.
Yep.
But they're like,
how we're doing it.
We're not going to pull out. They make too much goddamn money to pull out ever.
I know they make
Formula
a
One.
ton of money through that, man. Because they're
It
absolutely
should be.
dominating.
It should be even.
Yeah,
I mean, it should be. I mean, they should be at their technological best. It's Formula One. They should have they should be allowed to use anything, but it should all be the same.
Yeah, I mean, it should be the same because you want it to come down to the drivers and the engineering team for the car. You know how to set it up, and then the skill of the driver. Not we put the most amount of money so we can afford the best of the best. You know what I mean? It's like the Cowboys in the late '80s, early '90s. They just bought their
they had
Super
the most
Bowl
money
victories.
and bought everybody.
Yeah. And then they were like, we can't have this, so we're going to introduce a salary cap. And now
Which I think is cool.
Anybody can win.
Well, I mean, that makes everything more interesting, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's like NASCAR, you know, every car is the same. They all have the same horsepower. You know, they have different manufacturers, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to have the manufacturers build the engine to the specifics of NASCAR.
Yeah.
And this, that, and the other. So it does come down to the team, the engineering, the engineers on the team, how they set up the car, and the driver.
Yeah.
So it's not
how it should be. So
I'm
excited.
think it's freaking cool.
I think there's I'm hoping for, you know, we get to this point of the year and there's been like 8 different winners. You know what I mean?
Which would be cool, but I mean,
awesome because it'd be a fight all the way to the end. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it wouldn't
I'd
just
like
be like because Lewis Hamilton's walking away with it,
dominating.
Right
yeah, just dominating the whole. Because that kind of gets boring. Like Lewis Hamilton in the lead. Yep. All right, I'm gonna go take a nap.
Yeah, it's like he won a race again. So you're rooting for the best of the rest, but it's like but they're not. You know, they're not winning the race, and it's just like kind of.
Yeah, I think if there's more competition, like more actual racing, for position.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of, I wonder who's going to get third today.
Yeah, who's going to get third?
Lewis
who's
Hamilton's
going to
get first?
Because the top 4 is always going to be Mercedes, Ferrari, and then you have the Red Bull, which is usually runner-ups, and then you have the best of the rest, which is like, you know, what is it, Renault, Alfa Romeo, you know, those other teams.
Yeah, there's the outliers that do well, you know, on certain weekends.
McLaren.
But I'd like to see, you know, definitely more competition amongst the teams and drivers and shit. It would just make Formula One a lot more interesting, I feel like.
Well, they're heading towards it, so I'm excited to see that, man.
Well, that's cool.
So, anyways, so I had this thought late last night about you know how popular audiobooks have become?
Yeah.
So audiobooks are exploding. You have Amazon, what is it, Kindle Reader or whatever. What's the one Amazon has?
Oh,
Audible?
Audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I use Audible all the time.
You have all these like huge libraries of audiobooks and most audiobooks are excellent, and most people say certain audiobooks would be perfect if they were read by certain people like Morgan Freeman, you know, Daniel Craig, Oprah, because she does have a good storytelling voice. I'm sorry, but she does. Or basically anybody with a voice of gold, with a silver tongue.
Right.
However, my question is, what kind of audiobooks would be ruined with a certain voice? Specifically, a country accent. So I dug deep, and I found I found 2 books that I just think that would be absolutely destroyed by being read with a deep Southern country accent. So the first one I had was Lord of the Rings. So I picked some quotes from the book, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to read these out in a country, deep Southern accent. So, you shall not pass. 3 rings for the 11 kings under the sky. 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone. 9 for the mortal men doomed to die. 1 for the dark lord on his dark throne in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. 1 ring to rule them all. 1 ring to find them. 1 ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. Moonlight drowns out all but the brightest of stars.
Oh my God.
It's the job that never started, as takes the longest to finish. Yeah, so those are some of the quotes for Lord of the Rings that would be destroyed by a country accent.
I agree.
Yeah.
You shall not pass.
You
fly, you fools.
Yeah. So I have one more. Did you find any?
Man, I tried to find some. Like I wanted to do Harry Potter. But
I thought of that one too. I did. I thought of that one too. But I was like, because
everybody in Harry Potter has an English accent.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was like, Lord of the Rings would be funny too. So the other book that I found that I thought would be destroyed by a country accent is 50 Shades of Grey. So, in case you don't know, if you've been living under a rock your whole life, 50 Shades of Grey is basically a porn novel for women. So,
yeah.
I found some of the best quotes. So, here it goes. Why don't you like to be touched? Because I'm 50 shades of fucked up, Anastasia.
Jesus Christ.
You have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. We aim to please, Miss Steele. All right. This is this is one of my favorites. Sometimes I wonder if there's something wrong with me. Perhaps I've spent too long in the company of my literary romantic heroes, and consequently my ideals and expectations are far too high. Oh, that's not it. Never mind. That's not my favorite one. What the hell is it? Oh, here we go. Yeah, here it goes. Men aren't really complicated, Anna, honey. They are very simple. Literal creatures. They usually mean what they say, and we spend hours trying to analyze what they've said when really it's obvious. If I were you, I'd take him literally. That might help. What the hell, man? This isn't it. Oh, okay, there it is. All right,
it's
I promise
still
this
ridiculous.
is it. I want you sore, baby, he murmurs, and he continues his sweet, leisurely torment back and forward.
He murmurs.
Every time you move tomorrow, I want you to be reminded that I've been there. Only me. You are mine.
Oh, my God.
Does this mean...
I found...
What?
Keep going.
All right, this is kind of a big one, but still. Does this mean you're going to make love to me tonight, Christian? Holy shit, did I just say that? His mouth drops open slightly, but he recovers quickly. No, Anastasia, it doesn't. Firstly, I don't make love. I fuck hard. Secondly, there's a lot more paperwork to do. And thirdly, you don't yet know what you're in for. You could still run for the hills. Come, I want to show you my playroom. My mouth drops open. Fuck hard? Holy shit, that sounds so hot. But why are we looking at a playroom? I'm mystified. You want to play on your Xbox? I ask. He laughs loudly. No, Anastasia, no Xbox. No PlayStation. Come on. Producing the key from his pocket, he unlocks yet another door and takes a deep breath. You can leave any time. The helicopter is on standby to take you wherever you want to go. You can stay the night and go home in the morning. It's fine, whatever you decide. Just open the damn door, Christian. He opens the door and stands back to let me in. I gaze at him once more. I so want to know what's in there. Taking a deep breath, I walk in, and it feels like I've time traveled back to the 16th century and the Spanish Inquisition. Holy fuck.
Oh, I don't make love. I fuck.
Does this mean you're going to be making love to me tonight, Christian? Holy shit, did I just ask that? His mouth drops open slightly, but he recovers quickly. No, Anastasia, it doesn't. Firstly, I don't make love. I fuck hard.
Fuck hard. Oh my god. Dude, that needs to be a fucking bumper sticker.
Yeah, it does.
First, I don't make love. I fuck hard.
That needs to be a ringtone for somebody. But, yeah, so, I mean, I'll think of some more for the next episode, but that's all I got for this one. Like, what other accents would be ruined, or what audiobooks would be ruined by certain accents. So I just thought that'd be funny.
I think the country accent does it perfectly. Like, that is the most grating accent you can find.
I mean, you automatically assume that like they have
when
no
it's
teeth.
Supposed to be serious. Yeah, when it's supposed to be serious, especially
sexual.
The part where I don't make love, Anastasia. I fuck hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like things like that. If you come across like a murder mystery, that'd be even worse.
Oh my god!
Because you got to think like country accent. You automatically think no teeth. They obviously do some type of tobacco product.
Mm-hmm.
They have pickup trucks that are beat to shit. They live in a trailer. So when it said that, like that part where it talked about the helicopter, like the helicopter's ready for you whenever you need. I was just thinking, like, would you believe somebody with that accent owns a helicopter?
Hell, maybe Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome.
Maybe. But I was thinking, like, what if you, because, apparently, like, it's a lot of, like, what is it called? BDSM or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where it's, like, basically you, like, beat the shit out of each other with, like, toys.
Yeah.
So that's, like, the premise of the book.
That's what the whole book was about.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
basically
tying
just
her up and, like, putting stuff in her butt and stuff.
Yeah, like, it's, like, just a super, like, dirty, erotic novel. And it's, like, with a country accent.
Yeah.
You just got to think, like, it doesn't sound right at all.
Like, can you imagine, like, listen to that audiobook? Like, all these bitches have been, like, hearing about, oh, my God, I heard 50 Shades of Grey is so hot. Like, yeah, it's pretty hot, but the narrator's kind of weird. I don't care. I just want
to listen to it. And it's like some dude, like...
the ladies have to set the scene to, rub one in.
Yeah.
So...
And it's by the point of view of a woman.
Candles are lit. Yeah, candles are lit. And then you just hear this guy with the hackiest country accent.
Yeah, like, you press play on the audiobook. You press play,
and you're like,
and you're just waiting. All of a sudden, it's like 50 Shades of Grey by whoever wrote the book. Page 1.
And then she's chapter 1.
Page 1, chapter 1.
Anastasia walked into the fucking thing over here. And she's like, what the fuck? She's like, she's like, I heard this book was great, but she's like, oh, and they start getting hot. She's like, like real tentative, like,
yeah, she's like, I don't know.
I'm really hot about this, but I don't know if I should be flicking the bean right now.
Yeah, this is
really inappropriate.
Yeah, I'm trying to paint a picture, and it's just not happening.
So like, I read an article, or like it was like some kind of post, and it was like some theater worker was just finding cucumbers all over the fucking place when that movie came out. Just left abandoned in seats.
Gross.
It's like, I found a cucumber in this fucking movie theater. It's like, here's another one.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just cucumbers chilling on the seat after the movie was over.
That's disgusting.
And you know they were in there making German cucumber salad.
Yeah, because you don't just carry one of those into a movie theater for no reason.
Fuck no.
Like, no, I just, that's what I like to snack on. I'm not a huge fan of Reese's Pieces or popcorn. I like cucumbers.
I just like cucumbers.
Whole.
I like 8-inch long cucumbers.
Oh my god.
Oh my fucking
So anyways, if you can think of any more books that would be ruined or even improved with a country or southern accent, let us know on the Twitters at PullItBack1. Just tag us in it, and then we'll try to see if we can talk about it on the next show.
Accent.
We'll read part of it in a country accent, the most famous lines. So, did you have anything else, Eddie?
I just wanted to give a quick shout out to my wife's. I guess he's a lead at her job. Seems like a good dude. He's a listener. He's an avid listener. He was pestering us for weeks about the next episode coming out. So here it is, Tony. Hope you enjoy this episode. Thank you for listening. We love you all.
Sorry for the very long wait. We've been pretty busy. We took a little summer vacay, I guess you can call it. But yeah, we're back on regular scheduling, so we'll be having them drop every Thursday from here on out. So before we end this podcast, I have a story. So I was thinking for the next few episodes to close out the show, we will be reading some of the funniest Amazon review stories. Preferably
in a country accent.
Yeah. Preferably from the Haribo sugar-free gummy bears. So, if you don't know, some of these stories are very well written, and they're like in the reviews, and a lot of them are just hilarious. So,
some of the funniest shit.
Some of the funniest things I have ever heard by far. So, without further ado, this is an Amazon review titled My Dinner with Andrea from 2013. Let me get comfy here. All right. So, I'm pretty sure Andrea, is what I'll call her, agreed to have dinner at my apartment only because I always spoke to her using nothing but my 2 years of high school German. Her English was perfect, probably better than mine, but the fact that I could only ask her directions to the Autobahn or inquire about the health of her non-existent Tante Amelia seemed to make me appealing to her in some sweet, non-threatening way. My intentions, however, were considerably less childlike, which is why the shopping that night was done at one of those upscale groceries with an international flair. Baoul's Marinières is as much of a panty peeler as anything I can cook. And isn't that hard to pull off? But still, I was busy tracking that recipe in my head when I found myself in the sweets aisle. And that, to my great chagrin, is why...
Chagrin.
What?
Chagrin.
Oh, chagrin, sorry. Yeah, I misread that. Is why I didn't immediately notice the difference between Haribo normal gummy bears, which are designed for human enjoyment, and Haribo sugarless gummy bears, which are designed for use in maximum security prisons as a way to punish uncooperative inmates. I shan't make that mistake again. Notice you can't spell shan't without shat. Prior to Andrea's arrival, I sat in my living room, creating a playlist of make-out music and nervously binging on the gummy bears. I had placed in a decorative bowl because I'm fancy. The doorbell rang, and within minutes we were standing in the kitchen drinking beers, and both of us probably worrying that we were about to exhaust my ability to communicate in her native tongue. But soon, that would be the least of my worries. In the middle of trying to ask Andrea if she likes to dance to young people's music, I felt a flutter in my midsection, accompanied by a guttural pronouncement so loud it threatened to drown out my own voice. Maybe it was because I was mentally refreshing language lessons, but it suddenly struck me how much pre-diarrheal grumbling sound like German words. Entitlement was the next thing uttered by my rapidly clenching stomach. Appropriately, Andrea looked up in response. Sind Sie Kaffee machen? She said. Am I making coffee? I thought I must have mistranslated her at first, then I finally realized that yes, the loud, ominous gurgling coming from my gut could easily be mistaken for the percolating of some bachelor's crappy coffee maker. It's remarkable how quickly one knows that one is about to have a traumatic potty-making experience. Maybe that's the body's way of buying you the precious seconds you need. I was already calculating the number of steps to the bathroom, speculating on whether I would have time left to lift the toilet lid, when my own voice cried out loudly in my head, "She's going to hear everything." Thanks to the acoustical idiosyncrasy in my building, the hallway outside the bathroom works as an amplifier pointed straight at my living room /kitchen. so that somehow even the gentlest tinkle sound like I'm pouring lemonade out of a bucket. With only half an idea of what I was doing, I grabbed Andrea's hand and pulled her roughly down onto my sofa. I must have looked like a madman as I booted up my iTunes playlist, plugged in the gigantic new headphones I had just bought to keep me looking young and hip, and clamped them down over her ears. The sweat forming on my brow and upper lip couldn't have helped. In response to her nervous expression, I kept shouting, "You'll love this! You'll love this! You'll love this!" I spun around so that she was looking at the window. My plan was that she'd be so distracted by the modest fourth floor view that it would allow me to pull my pants off while I sprinted down the hall, silently singing the praises of the noise-reducing quality of my new headphones. This story will be reprinted in its entirety as a 5-star review on the Sony Beats Audio Amazon page. As I slammed the bathroom door shut, already half naked, it occurred to me that I had not been shouting, "You'll love this," at Andrea. I don't even know how to say that in German. In my desperation, I had been saying, "Ich liebe dich," roughly translated to, "I love you." Repeatedly professing my love for her in a shaky and frantic voice. But maybe that was a good thing, because as I threw myself at the toilet, I figured the best I could hope for is that she would be so creeped out that she would sneak out of the apartment blissfully unaware of the carnage taking place in the next room. What can I say about the ensuing white-knuckle bowel movement that hasn't been expressed in other reviews on this page? I'm pretty sure I haven't seen the adjective Kafkaesque used anywhere else. By the end of Act 1 on this private little torture porn movie, I was confessing to every unsolved crime in history, praying I would stumble upon the one that would satisfy my invisible captors. Quickly, I realized that I had more than Andrea's sense of sound to worry about. Were she to get even the faintest whiff of the weapons-grade sluice that my anus had angrily shouted into the porcelain, I would have to change my name and move to another city. And so I flushed and flushed and flushed and flushed, and then I flushed, and nothing happened. I have never looked down into a broken toilet with so much horror in my life. And I once stopped up George Clooney's crapper, and that's a true story for another time. I reached for the plunger, but my hand froze, and my heart seized when I saw it on the floor, broken in two, and covered in what looked like teeth marks. Apparently, I had been using the wooden handle to keep me from biting my tongue off, and I had chewed clean through it. When did that happen? It seems my mind had already started the process of repressing this event. Amid the feverish, fruitless dance I did across my tiny bathroom floor, it dawned on me that it had been more than a minute since my last soul-wrenching anal tantrum. "Dear Lord, is it over?" I asked, quite possibly aloud. I may have been lightheaded and delusional, but I began to imagine a non-ignominious resolution to this ordeal. I just needed to get her the hell out of here. If Andrea hadn't fled this building vomiting in terror, then I supposed I could pull up my trousers and make a cavalier exit. As long as I could get her off the premises and as far away from this post-apocalyptic commode as humanly possible, assuming that the diarrheists had retreated to the hills temporarily, maybe I could even whisk Andrea away to a candlelight dinner at Bernardo's. How impulsive. My first few steps back toward the living room were tentative, and not just because my sphincter felt raw and tattered. It was a slow approach to the moment of truth, especially when I saw her figure still planted on my sofa. I knew any look on Andrea's face, other than her mouth agape, would constitute a miraculous victory. And when she smiled at me, the wash of relief that engulfed me was more glorious than any throes of ecstasy I might have wished for at the beginning of the night. And then I saw it. The decorative bowl sitting in her lap, down to just the last few sugarless gummy bears. "Du hast terrible," she said to me, accompanied by a satisfied smile, a big, beaming Hansel and Gretel smile that slightly turned down in one corner. At the sound we both suddenly heard, a low rumble from deep within her GI tract that sounded like Gefahr, the German word for danger. Her eyes shot past mine and refocused on the bathroom door just down the hall behind me. Finn. So if you want to read more of those, most of them are absolutely hilarious, and I'll try to find another one for next week. So,
oh my God.
That being said, thank you guys so much for listening to the Pull It Back Podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Pull It Back Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Pull It Back 1. Like I said, give us your comments on the books that you think would be ruined with a country accent. And if you stumble across anything on Amazon that has super funny reviews, send it to us, tweet us in it, tweet us a link or something like that so that we can pull it up and read it on the next podcast. So anything else for you, Becky?
No, man, I'm good.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to the Pull It Back Podcast, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.